It's an At the Office edition of the East Bank Sports Show, serving up the hottest sports takes from right here in Cleveland, Ohio. It's your hosts, Noah, John, and Erik.
Welcome back into the East Bank Sports Show at the Office edition. I apologize to our live audience that tunes in weekly. It's been kind of bi-weekly lately because of John having power. I had an issue there. It literally completely dropped. It said neither of you were connected to the call, and then the whole page refreshed. Regardless, we're here now. We're talking sports. John, Erik, how are we doing? It's been way too long.
Way too long.
John,
I'm doing great, man. I missed you guys. Sorry, we got the tornado that was like a mile away. We had no power for a while. I had a couple vacations, but two things. One, you guys know we're boys on the show and off the show. It's good to be back with you. Missed the chats. Glad the vacation season's over. And two, Noah, if you ever have technical difficulties and can't come, I am a one-time host. I think it went well. So you feel free to just jump on in whenever you need to. I'll take it over.
That's a good leeway because next week we're actually going to let the cynical, diabolical Erik Williams take over as hosting for next week's show. So that's something for you guys to tune into next week. Before we get into 30-second takes, make sure you hit the subscribe button. Follow us on socials. Helps us grow the channel, grow the brand of At the Office and the East Bank Sports Show a ton. And gentlemen, me and Erik are feeling in a good mood. John's in a different mood. It looks like he's ready for college football. Me and Erik, we're ready for some brownies. Maybe it's because we're going to the preseason game this weekend together, might I add. But we had some
maybe I'll
Browns
see you there.
Yeah, whatever, man. We had some big Browns news, something I've been waiting for, something I'm really excited that we finally pulled the trigger and did. 30-second takes. Thoughts on Jeremiah Owusu-Koramoah getting his contract extension. John, it's been way too long since I've seen your beautiful face. I'm going to let you start. 30 seconds on the clock. Go.
Yeah, I'm growing the beard back for you too, so Erik doesn't get confused. But I love the signing. My 30-second take is that the Browns have the best roster in the AFC outside of quarterback. If this is what the GM and the people in the front office think is going to put us over the top for a Super Bowl, I'm here for it. We need everybody to show up. We need everybody to stay healthy. We need everybody to play well. Including Deshaun, but yeah, I mean, we're in win now mode. And I think JOK is a big piece of the defense, so I was glad to see him coming back.
I couldn't have put it any better myself. Erik, go ahead. Try to top that. 30-second takes. Go.
I love it. I love saying Owusu-Koramoah. I love that Kevin Stefanski described his movement as being like the Matrix, and I agree. I think he slots into Schwartz's defense really, really well. And most importantly, I don't think he's come anywhere near his ceiling yet. I think he still has a lot of room to grow, and I'm excited for it. I think it's a great move, and I echo what John said. I'm ready. I'm ready for this winning season. Let's go.
Yeah, I can echo the both of you and beat this up a bunch. I've been a JOK fan for a while now. I wanted them to actually take him in the first round. He slid to us in the second round. I was more excited about that pick than Greg Newsome just because he was my favorite prospect. Where the Browns were kind of at in the draft that year, which was 2020 when Cleveland had the draft, right? 2021. That's my fault. Very happy about the extension. We are a legitimate franchise, and this proves it. Gentlemen, glad to talk a little bit of brownies with you. But now we got to go to the title topic, which is a fun one. I've been ready to talk about this one. It's been on our list for the East Bank Sports Show at the Office for a while of topics to bring up. Perfect timing right now. We're mid-MLB, got the preseason going on, and that's about it right now. But who is your favorite sideline reporter in any sport? Favorite sideline reporter of all time? Who is your favorite sideline reporter? Gentlemen, Erik, I'm going to let you go first. Gentlemen, I actually want to go last on this one because I have two answers, and I want to give the opposite if one of you say one of my two. So, Erik, go ahead first.
You're not saying mine. I know it.
Yeah, so for me, let me start by saying that I did limit myself to actual sideline reporters, meaning typically like the third person in a crew, because there's a lot of really good people. Chuck would be one of them, but they're more of like a studio crew. Berman for ESPN, and he was an announcer for a long time in those Monday night games. There's a lot of favorites, but I stuck with Sideline. And for me, Craig Sager takes the cake. First of all, let me just say that he has style. He had panache. I mean, he was so fun. Just his outfits alone. He didn't even have to open his mouth. But I want to take you back a little bit to 2007, because in 2007, I personally had just come off a cancer, whole summer of cancer, fighting stage 4 cancer. And I got to throw out the first pitch in the Indians Yankees playoff game, that Midge game, where the midges were all over Jabba, that game. So I threw out the first pitch, and then Queen Latifah threw out the second first pitch behind me. Got to meet her. She's dope as hell. It was a really cool experience. But during a part of that, afterwards, Queen Latifah came up and sat behind us where we were sitting, and then Craig Sager came and interviewed her as part of like one of those parts of the game. And I got to meet Craig Sager. He's a very, very cool guy, very down to earth. He was joking with my dad. I mean, he's just one of those guys. So for me, that connection, sadly, he passed of leukemia himself. He was just always, I have that perception in my head having met him. And I'm really bummed. I have a picture that's sitting in my office right now of me and Queen Latifah holding our baseballs, but I didn't get one with Craig, which I'm bummed about. But he would top it for me. He's got to be the best.
That's an interesting story. And, I've been your friend for a little bit of time now, man. And I didn't know that. That was kind of cool to hear, just personally knowing you as well. John, take it away, man.
I love the Queen Latifah story. I did know it, but it never gets old. I'd listen to it another 2 or 3 times. It's just a cool story. Yes, Craig Sager kind of changed what it meant to be a sideline reporter. Dude was a stud. I went in a different direction. All due respect to him, I started thinking about the people. For me, it comes down to some key criteria. One was exactly what Erik said. They got to be an actual sideline reporter. So all these people who have other jobs and stuff, like Aditi Kikabwala, the way she reports on the NFC North is exceptional. Her radio spots are on point. Her articles are on point. She never misses a beat. I love her. But she's a journalist who writes, who also kind of happened to do the sideline thing. I wanted to do somebody who's in the field, on the field, with the players, and who adds a ton. My mind next went to the glory days when we had LeBron and all the people with him having a towel around his neck after he scored 45. And he's like, thank you for the question, Doris. I appreciate it. Or Lisa. There's a lot of NBA sideline reporters who I almost gave the nod to. But honestly, who this is a little bit outside of what you're probably thinking. The sideline reporter who adds the most for me as a viewer is Amanda Balionis on golf. She knows the game. She knows the players. She knows her stuff. She's played the game. And every time she does a hit, it's like she has a personal rapport with the players. Most of the time when they do sideline hits during a game, especially the NFL, I'm like, this is dumb. I asked the coach who was down 45 points what he's got to do, and he said score some points. And I'm like, all right, sweet. Like, we could have just run another commercial. I find myself watching golf tournaments, and when she's doing her thing, it adds to my experience. There are a lot of deserving people, but yeah, I think she's my favorite.
So, like I said, I had 2 answers, and I was nervous that one of them was going to be taken. I'm still going to go with my second answer because, truthfully, when I think of sideline reporter, this is still the name that sticks out in my head, which is kind of random, I feel like, but to an extent. John, you kind of already mentioned her, actually. One of the most pioneering women in sports today. She is the first female to be on a booth commentating on an NBA game. She has been a sideline reporter for years. She's been in NBA 2K. She has been recognized by the Basketball Hall of Fame. Shout out to the GOAT, Doris Burke, everyone. Yeah, Doris Burke gets some hate. I'm not a huge fan of her when she's in the booth, but when she is doing her thing on the sideline, interviewing the players, talking about injury reports, doing the sideline aspect of reporting that comes with sports, bar none, one of my favorite to listen to. She's knowledgeable. She's a former coach and player. like I said, she's won multiple awards. Versatility. She knows what she's talking about. She knows the players. She has rapport with the players because she's been in the industry for so long at this point. When I think of sideline reporting and honestly basketball sideline reporting, that is the first name that comes to my head even to this day, when she's done less and less of that and has moved more into being in the booth and commentating over games. I'm going to open the floor out now. What do we think of everyone's selections? I agree with both of you. I think both are great picks, but let's get into it.
Yeah, I don't think there was a bad pick here. I'm curious. I do want to hear who your other pick was, but I want to give one tiny shout out real quick first, and that is, I'm here nor there on Jenny Taft. I think she does a fine job, but I will say Gus Johnson's one of my all-time favorite guys in sports, period. And I love when he throws it to her and he goes, "The All-American Jenny Taft," and it's just like, oh, this is college football and fall's here, and I have a thing of chili in front of me, and it's just great every time.
My other selection was David Aldridge, but I didn't want to use him because of some of the reasonings when you were talking about people who have done so much other things. He's a big writer and he's into a lot of different facets of the game. That was part of the reason I moved away from him. I thought one of you guys might have brought him up for his time on like TNT and stuff like that, but Doris Burke to me has always been kind of a staple, growing up, even during like the Cavs golden era, if you want to call it that, when we were always in the finals. She was one of the main sideline reporters. So
I do wish there were more, or there's a more emphasis on that side, the journalism side. I'm not asking that these people be hard-hitting journalists, but when ESPN's probably the best example, and they've done better in recent years, but when they would try to hire an attractive talent instead of somebody that really knows the game, it's frustrating. The viewers know it. It's really, really frustrating, and it grates on you. Like I said, it doesn't need to be, David and Bernstein, but I would like people that at least know the game a little better. You see that a lot. I feel like ESPN has shifted away from that a bit, but early days that was definitely their MO.
That was a highbrow drop there. It's like if you know.
Oh, I screwed it up. It's Woodward and Bernstein anyway, but
I was just gonna say that. I was like, not to correct you because I liked where you're headed, but no, Doris Burke was number 2 for me, Noah. So that was a great pick, I think, by you. Another quick shout out I wanted to give too. It's a little bit different, but I think it's in the same vein. High school football is big time stuff in Northeast Ohio. And there are intern pluses who get paid $500 more than a kid fresh out of college to like fly around Northeast Ohio in a helicopter and tell you what Medina Highland is doing against, Bedford because it's week 7 of high school hysteria. They don't get enough credit. They're not of the ilk of an Aditi Kikabwala or a Doris Burke, but I would argue their job is a lot tougher. And in Northeast Ohio, I appreciate it. Friday night at 11, 10:30, 11:30, I'm always watching that stuff.
Can I add one more as well? Recently, you guys know, and we talked about it on the show, I've been watching a lot more women's basketball. It started with Caitlin Clark a year and a half ago. It's kind of continued. We all know I'm a big Paige Beckers fan because I'm a UConn fan. But Andrea Carter has become one of my favorite personalities in women's basketball. She always has a solid point. She knows the game really well. Unfortunately, injuries kind of limited her professional career, which sucks. But she's one of my new favorites. I always like to listen to her and the opinions that she gives.
Yeah, she does. Elle Duncan has a crew that she always does WNBA stuff with, and she has a show too. They do great women's basketball work.
I'm curious your guys' take that one sideline reporter who basically made up the coach's comments, and it hits a little on what John was saying. You're down by 45. What do you need to do? But she just straight up made it up. What do you guys think?
What is I missed the question.
Okay, yeah, I was confused too. That's why I try to pitch it to John to be like, wait, I'll just pick it up.
Are you talking about Aaron Andrews?
No, during college football season, there was a sideline reporter, and I forget her name. And she basically came out of halftime and she said, hey, I want to say it was Michigan, but I could be wrong. Hey, Coach Harbaugh said that the team needs to buckle down and they're allowing too many rush yards, when he said none of that to her. She just made it up.
I remember this. This was last season, right?
Yeah. And it was a big controversy because she admitted it on like a podcast. She's like, yeah, the coaches don't really give you shit. So I just kind of say what people want to hear. Like, we know what they have to do. And maybe there's more of that actually does happen than we realize. But it seemed like the integrity was lost a bit.
I think that in a world where people watch news that tells them what they want to hear, not what the news is, that's a
Carissa Thompson. Thank you, Tim.
Yeah, maybe it's a little bit late to bring it up, and maybe that horse is already out of the stall. But I think if you're on TV and you're quote unquote a newscaster or a reporter, your job is to tell the facts, and that wasn't that. So I think that she's trash and should have gotten fired on the spot. And
yeah, how could you still have a journalism career after something like that?
To me, it gives. And I'm going to make fun of one of my own interests, wrestling. It gives wrestling. It's like trying to stir the pot off of something that's like make-believe almost. Yeah. I remember that. And I was like, it's not a big deal. But then I start thinking about it. And it's like, that could have stirred up a lot of different things to happen in the game. It's almost manipulating it in a way. I don't know how much it really would, but you know what I mean?
Yeah.
How hard is it to go out there and literally say, Coach Harbaugh was mum. He didn't have any words for me, but it's clear that Michigan needs to do this. I mean, that's not a hard thing to do.
Yeah,
that's true too, though. 100%. Yeah. That's true too. I want to know real quick your guys' opinion before we go to commercial break on what Tom Brady is going to look like as a broadcaster. We get the honor of the first Browns regular season game being called by the GOAT, Tom Brady. I want to know what your expectations are. I know this is a curveball, but we're talking reporters broadcasting that right now. Give me like almost a 30-second take thought.
I mean, I'll go first. I think the expectation, at least for me, is very high. I think Tony Romo's probably the bar, and he got some crap too, honestly. I think that that Romo needed to bone up on his actual broadcasting skills at one point, but when the game's on the line and he's like, hey, they got two receivers out here and it's called this, and look at that DB, what he's going to do, he's going to move and the quarterback's going to see, and he calls the play. I mean, I've never seen that in broadcasting before. And if anybody has arguably the greatest football mind, it's Tom Brady. I think he'll be able to do that. Every interview, everything I've ever seen him in, he's so polished and he's like pitch perfect. He nails it every single time. So my expectation's high. We'll see what happens. I do not want to get embarrassed by the Dallas Cowboys of all people in front of Tom Brady. So I hope the Browns perform as well, but I think he'll do well, honestly.
Yeah, I agree with a lot of what you said. The Tony Romo route is the best. I think whatever he does, what is he going to look like? The answer is a rich dude, because he's already rich and he signed like a $250 per game contract. Good for him. I wish I could get a 500th of that for one whole year, but I just think he should be a genuine and be himself, because there's one thing the world doesn't need. It's another dry ass sports commentator who just says, oh, and the Bears gained the first down and they moved the chains. Like whatever he is, maybe he'll be Romo, maybe he'll be different. Maybe he'll bring his own thing that we haven't seen. But what Tom Brady adds to the broadcast is what people like me want to know. People who know sports inside and out, who know football really, really, really well, but have never put on pads in the NFL. He's done that at the highest level. So whatever he does, I just hope that it's insightful and it's authentic and it's something that we wouldn't get anywhere else, because Tom Brady has a unique perspective that nobody else on the face of the earth has. And that's what it looks like from the booth, knowing you were down there and you were the best ever to do it.
You know what we didn't mention for whatever reason is, it really depends too on his partner. I mean, I think Romo's so good because he has Nance to bounce off of too. I think that's a big deal. And Tim just said that he hopes he's better than Collinsworth. I really don't get the hate for Collinsworth. I've always been a fan, I gotta say.
It's because he would play for the Bengals and we live in Cleveland. I think that's mostly
right.
It.
Maybe it's local.
One thing to come back to the main topic of sideline reporters. I think a lot of people sit there and go, what an idiot. I could do that job better. What a stupid question. Go back and look up the clip of when Richard Sherman picked off Crabtree or deflected it for the pickoff against Crabtree. I think it was Erin Andrews, and she's like, "This is my moment, NFC Championship. The Seahawks are going to the Super Bowl. Hi, Richard Sherman." And she didn't even get the question out. He's like, "Don't ever put a sorry receiver on." It's not Michael Crabtree, LOB. Like, it is not as easy as it looks, and those mics are hot, and the emotions are still running high. So, especially in the NFL.
One of the greatest clips of all time.
Oh, man, it's too good.
One of the main reasons, well, not one of the main reasons, one of the things that really got me even more into football as I was growing up. Gentlemen, I'm going to cut us to commercial break. When we come back, we have some more fun topics to talk about here on the East Bank Sports Show at the office. Go ahead, listen to some of these commercials. Let us pay a couple bills. We'll be right back. And we're back with the East Bank Sports Show at the Office Edition. Please go make sure you hit the subscribe button on our YouTube channel at the East Bank Sports Show, on the TikTok and the Instagram at the East Bank Sports Show. Check out everybody at the Fanatical Elves. There's a bunch of great shows. They did a Fanatical Elves show earlier that I unfortunately couldn't make it on. So shout out those guys. But gentlemen, we are done with the Olympics, which is, a little tear because it was a fun time and we did a lot of Olympic-based topics.
Can I pause you real quick, Mr. Olson? I just want to say shout out because the Paralympics are going on right now, and those athletes dedicate and work just as hard. I just want to shout them out real quick, but go on.
100%, and I agree with that. Thank you for pausing me for that. With that being said, I wanted to do one last Olympic roundup kind of question, broad topic, for us to be able to talk about it one more time before we have to put the dog to rest for another 4 years. The United States is not participating in the Olympics. They're out for whatever reason. What country are you rooting for and why? Don't think about the reason because my mind went to a dark place. John, tell me who you're rooting for and why.
I was going to jump in on that. So this is an interesting question. When it comes to the Olympics, because the Americans are the 800-pound gorilla in the room and everybody's chasing them winter and summer. Winter, not as much. There's some really good skiers in Winter Olympics in Northern Europe, but we're the Buckeyes of the Olympics. Everybody hates us because we're the best. So if we're out of it, being on top of the mountain, I don't have a ton of animosity towards anybody. Unless they're like enemies of state, right? So who is John not rooting for? I'm not rooting for China. I'm not rooting for Russia. I'm not rooting for Iran.
North Korea.
Not rooting for North Korea, right? You guys know the list of the countries we aren't rooting for. The people who I am rooting for, it's actually not a country, it's athletes. I could say something cheesy and take the easy way out, like Puerto Rico sometimes has their own athletes, even though it's technically part of the United States, or like, American Samoa or something because it's not the United States. But no, that's bullshit. That's a cop-out. I'm rooting for the little guy and the underdog. And I honestly do the same thing in all major sports. Once the Guardians are out of it, I'm rooting for whoever the least likely team is to win. I'm rooting for the Royals and the Diamondbacks, never the Yankees and the Red Sox, right? Never rooting for the Cowboys and Steelers. I'm always rooting for the Jaguars to pull it out this year. Olympics is the same thing. My favorite moment of this Olympics, outside of a few of the American golds, was, I think it's Julian Alfred, who's the sprinter. She's from St. Lucia. They never won a medal, and then she won the 100-meter and upset the – like, even in that moment when I wanted Sha'Carri to win it, I was like, this is dope. Like, St. Lucia has a flag carrier who's their only athlete who competes in 6 things. Like, these countries don't do a ton, right? Like, go Jamaican bobsled team. So I don't really have a country. I'll root for Canada here and there because of proximity. I like Brazil, just always liked it, never been. But, like, I'm just rooting for whoever is least likely to medal or whoever's had the hardest road to get to actually get some love. And I don't give a shit if it's a Cambodian pole vaulter or if it's a curler from Nairobi. If you're not supposed to win and you win, I'm all about it.
Yeah. I'm with you on that because I didn't realize that there was an Olympic refugee team that does compete. So that would be up there for me. But I have to go to my roots on this question. I talk with my hands a lot on the show. I'll show real quick. I do have a 4-leaf clover tattooed on my wrist, and there is a reason for that. It's not just a stupid tattoo, even though it was a stupid tattoo. I am Irish. I am majority Irish. That is my heritage, my lineage, whatever you want to call it, whatever vocab word. So I'm going for Ireland. I'm going for Ireland all the way, in everything. And yeah, that's the end of my answer. Erik, go ahead, my man.
Yeah, I mean, when I thought about it, my answers kind of reflected John's. I don't want to root for autocratic countries, although I do want to say I did have one note about that because it's very easy for us to look at China, for example, and we can look at their terrible record on freedom. What they do, they're purging the Muslims in the southwest of the country, the Uyghurs. They're an awful country. And I feel bad, though, sometimes that the athletes from that country who have also worked really hard and dedicated themselves their entire lives and, probably didn't have a choice either to compete, they're sometimes shunned. There was a note from the Chinese delegation, I think, for diving or swimming that people were actively like ignoring them on the platform kind of thing. And I just don't think that's cool. That said, I had two thoughts on this. The first was Canada. It's a proximity thing, but also Canada's like our cool uncle. They're that uncle that like came over and didn't treat you like a kid, like talked to you normal and actually cared about your thoughts. That's how I view Canada. They're our hat. They're very cool. Summer McIntosh is one of my new favorite Olympic athletes. She's the swimmer. She is the next phenom. She won bronze 3 years ago when she was 14, which is insane to think about. She was now 17 competing in these Olympics, and she won, I think, a silver and 2 golds. So she's the next big thing. But like Noah, I agree that I went to my heritage, and I would have to say Great Britain. First of all, when I'm there, when I'm actually walking the streets of London, I feel like I'm home for whatever reason. I don't know if that's the Anglophile in me. I don't know if I just lived there in a past life. I probably will live there in a future life. So Great Britain for me, for sure, tops it. When there's the Euros, I'm rooting for them. In soccer, for example, we all know I'm a Chelsea fan, which is a London soccer club.
There is
that was coming.
At least one time an episode, he has to mention that he's a Chelsea fan.
Yeah. Erik's a
by the
Chelsea
way,
fan, and I'm 38 years old, so I got it out of the way for both of you.
By the
And
way,
I'm 23, and you're both old to me.
Right.
Okay, let's keep going.
Noah should become a Chelsea fan because our new big boss is a massive Chelsea fan. But anyway, whatever, different strokes. So yeah, Great Britain for me, I think would take the cake just for the affinity, the heritage, all of that.
Interesting
Interesting
thoughts and takes. When we first came up with this, my answer was 100% Ireland, but I do want to shout out the refugee team again because I think that would be a really I think it's really cool to see that, and also just be able to watch people who don't always get that opportunity to get the chance to compete in the Olympics. Period.
Which, speaking of that, one more note. Did you guys notice? So I watched a lot of Olympics coverage, probably more than I ever have for any Olympics, because I have a TV that I put into my office and I just kind of had it in the background all day long, every day. I love how NBC, Peacock tried to promote things they thought people would be interested in. And what I mean by that is I saw a lot of coverage on Ukrainian athletes that I don't think I've ever seen in any other Olympics. It's just interesting that they would linger on, the person that has no shot at a medal or anything. But because it's current affairs, we saw a lot more of it.
Yeah.
Gold zone for me, real quick, John, I'm sorry to cut you off, but Gold Zone for me was the main reason I think I watched so much Olympics. I mean, it was on our TV 24/7 here. as the new broadcast would post, we'd put it on. So as we're walking through the living room, or if we sit down to eat or whatever, we can watch. I had it on at work as you did. You had your TV. I was using my little Dell screen on my work laptop as my TV screen. But Gold Zone, I think, was the best thing they could have possibly done for the Olympics, because it made my viewing only go up drastically to watch it more. And I watch it pretty regularly, as I've stated on last episodes. Just because it's entertaining, and it's, once every 4 years you get either the summer or the winter, depending on time constraints. I digress. John, go ahead.
You guys got to do me a favor and tell me about Gold Zone 2 weeks before the Olympics, not 2 weeks after. I had no idea this existed. That's probably on me. Thanks for nothing, both of you.
Sorry. It was literally as television people, Noah and I work in television. John's worked in television. They did not even come close to fumbling coverage. What they did on Peacock, you had Gold Zone, where it's like every event where a medal could be won. You had the top event, so it's like 4 boxes of the top events going on at the moment, and you could click into any one of them and make it your whole screen. I mean, they absolutely nailed what they did with Peacock.
It's like what the Masters used to be with their, like, you could pick a foursome, you could pick your favorite golfer, you could pick the featured pairs, you could watch the live coverage. Yeah,
there's no going back. I mean, they absolutely crushed it.
The only other people that come to mind are one, stories, right? Oh, this guy almost died in this fire and he came all the way back trained and now he's going for South Africa. I'm like, yeah,
right.
I hope that guy wins. Or the guy who's like, I know everybody else has quadruple focal lenses with this super special pistol, and the dude rolls up with like a gun in his waistband and just regular glasses and wins the gold medal.
The Turkish guy, it was silver, but that guy was incredible.
Was fantastic. Yeah,
he looks like a dad trying a new hobby. Like he just kind of strolled in and like, yeah, this seems cool.
Yeah.
Right.
I will say last thing on the Olympics for me. We have 3 years and 355 days until the next Summer Olympics. Can someone on the men's relay team learn to pass a baton before 2028? That's all. It's been 20 years. That's it.
It is wild. It was so fumbled. Watching that live, I could not believe what I was watching. Like, I don't know how you could possibly start that early. And the whole thing, it didn't even matter if they fumbled it because he started too early and he was out of the zone. But
I don't. It's just gross.
Tim is training for 2028 breakdancing. And on that note, I'm going to move us on to the next topic, because now we're talking about a longtime viewer training for breakdancing. Gentlemen, last topic is very, very Noah coded. I won't lie. But I was trying to come up with something different for our third topic. Sometimes we go serious, sometimes we go lighthearted. This is more on the lighthearted side. So there's an outlet for people like me who pay way too much money for sneakers. If you couldn't see all the sneakers behind me or in past episodes, that came out with a post. This was probably about a month ago now, called Nice Kicks. Nice Kicks does coverage on all the upcoming shoe releases, what athletes are wearing on the court right now or on the field, customs, all of that kind of stuff. So I'm going to put this graphic up, and we're all going to take turns deciding what shoe deal we'd sign if for some reason an NBA team decided we deserve to be on their roster.
I do.
So this is
Noah. I do have one tiny change to this chart.
Oh, Lord.
Okay.
Here we go.
The Anta brand. I want us to pretend like that brand is just starting out. I don't want them to be where they're at right now in the marketplace.
That's fine. I mean, they're still a smaller brand. But for those who are listening,
I've never heard of them in either scenario.
Well, they did in just to real quick, in 2023, they did $23.45 billion. So my point is, that's the super obvious answer. And I just want to make it a little more competitive.
Gotcha.
I'm going to see. Okay, it won't let me do like the present mode. Let me see if I can.
I feel like that sounds like a lot of money, but that's also what Nike does on a weekend.
Yeah, but my point, again, 2% stake, 2% of that's $469 million.
So let's pull this graphic up. I'm going to explain it out real quick for those who are listening via podcasting platforms. So we have Anta at the bottom of the list. It's a $5 million upfront contract. You don't get your own signature shoe, so no Erik Williams ones. And
E-dubs.
a 2% E-dubs, I like that. But you get a 2% stake in the brand of Anta. Then there's Nike, $10 million, but you also get every Nike shoe ever. No signature shoe. Jordan brand, $15 million, access to all the Jordans. Adidas, $40 million, your own shoe, and you get guaranteed 10 of those signature shoes. So 10 years of additional income coming on top of all your royalties for your name being on the shoe. Reebok, $60 million, your own shoe, and an additional $32 million when you turn 35. Converse, $75 million, and you get a creative director position of the brand. And finally, Under Armour, $100 million, your own signature shoe, and your own subsidiary brand, i.e. Jordan brand, Curry brand now for Under Armour. So you have your own brand underneath this that you will be making royalties off of until the day you die, and then your kids will. Blase, blase, blah.
Can I ask a question before we start?
Yeah.
Because I don't know. Maybe you guys talked about it in the office. Maybe I misread it. Maybe I'm dense. I consider myself relatively intelligent. What would any rational thinking capitalistic American not take $100 million with Under Armour? I didn't even get, like, you sent this to me and I looked at it and I read it and I looked and read again and I looked up the brand I didn't know. And I was like, this is the easiest question you've ever posed.
Really? Because
I didn't
agree, like picking out the middle, but the Anta, that's why I wanted to change the rules on Anta, because like I just told you, 2% stake right now in Anta.
Yeah, but you just said Anta was a startup.
Well, I changed the rules to that because if it were right now, it'd be 469 million, which would only grow. It's a Chinese brand, I think, by the way.
Yes.
It's only going to grow. So you get 5 million. So you live off that 5 million for say 10 years, let that 469 grow or keep that stock. Think of Nike. If you were sitting at Nike in 1995, that's the obvious.
If you had $100 million in your own brand, you get all of that anyway, but you have $95 million more dollars.
All right, I'm going to butt in here. Because my answer is completely different than the both of yours. So from what I'm hearing, basically Erik is leaning Anta, even regardless of the startup, because of the idea.
I don't know. Go on, though. But
okay. John right now is full-blown Under Armour, and we're stupid if we don't think that. I'm not going to put the graphic back up because I can explain this myself. The correct answer to this question is not Anta. It is not Under Armour.
Here comes the sneaker.
Mr. Kanye is probably going to lose the deal, but go on.
The answer to the question is Converse. Converse is the answer to the question because you get all the creative royalties being the creative director of Converse.
No, you don't. The creative director does not get royalties.
You don't?
No. The creative director makes probably $250 a year-ish, and they don't get royalties on shit. That's not how it works in these businesses. But go on.
Interesting. Okay, regardless, how much money was it? $75 million up front.
Uh-huh.
You might need to put it back up because now this is.
Do you guys not have second monitors going on?
I do.
I only have one monitor at my apartment, actually.
Fair.
Converse, you're getting $75 million.
I screenshot it. You can take it down.
Okay, well, I can't see it, so I'm going to keep it up. Converse, $75 million, all the royalties off of your signature shoe. Yes, there are royalties with a signature shoe. And you get to be the creative director of a subsidiary brand of Nike. And then you get to also still wear all the Nike shoes and Jordans as I would, value in my own life. So to me, that is the correct answer because you are getting a majority of that money. You're getting a dream job for someone like myself. And you're getting your own signature shoe with all those royalties.
Y'all are wild, but I really want to go back to John's misunderstanding of Anta.
Noah's doesn't make sense either. Like,
why? Why does mine not make sense?
You could just take $100 million, blow $250K on Jordans, have all the Jordans, and have $25 million more
When
dollars.
you're signed to these brands, though, you're not allowed to wear competing brands' clothes or shoes.
Buy them. You don't
What am
wear
I going to do? Stare at them? I wear my shoes.
You don't wear half of those shoes behind you, do you?
Yes, I do.
No,
all the time.
His
Well,
shoe
what if
game
you
is
had 5,000 more. You only have 2 feet and 365 days in a year.
And 5 days in the office and 2 days in the weekend going out to the clubs.
All right, let's pause on that real quick because I can't believe John's original answer. And I'm only saying that because the first thing I did before, and that was your answer before we changed the rules. But before I changed the rules, the first thing I did was look up the revenue for Anta Sports, what the current value of the company. And I saw okay, it's worth $23.45 billion. A 2% stake gives me $469 million. But you're saying you'd only get 5. I'm just blown away by how like the accountant over here doesn't take the stake.
I thought the point of this was that Anta was a startup.
Well, I changed that, but you picked Under Armour before I ever changed that rule.
I never heard
right away. You said everybody shut up. If you pick Under Armour or don't pick Under Armour, you're dumb. Is basically what you let off.
It was like before I changed the rule.
So I have to plead ignorance. I'd never heard of Anta. I didn't know who they were. And given the fact that they are a $250 billion company and they're only offering me $5 million, I thought it was
plus 2%.
Well, I didn't know that. I've never heard
it's in the chart.
I know, but
what's not? You want to know something crazy, real quick, John?
In the annual revenue, like you didn't say, "Look at this $1 trillion company you get 2% of." You said Anta, what I never heard of.
I will let our listeners know that we do our own research on this show. We don't have a research team, but my man, I went and researched.
I want to let you know something, John, because
I've never heard of
Anta. You know, I can tell you 2 athletes you know for a fact that have signature shoes with Anta right now.
Really?
Hold on. Kawhi Leonard?
Nope.
Well, you'd never see him wearing them.
There's a basketball player. Now that we're talking about it, I remember this being a thing. But tell me who they are.
Kyrie Irving, Klay Thompson. Okay. So, like those moccasin-esque shoes that he was wearing in the playoffs were Anta.
Awful.
Those were kind of cool. They stood out a lot.
Yeah, if you're meeting John Smith just around the river bend, I'm not wearing that shit at an NBA game. Are you kidding me?
I don't know. I liked that it was different. Everyone was talking about it. Listen, I get what you're saying with the 100 million, and that's why I changed the rules, because there's really a question of I could take 100 million right now. I don't even care about the subsidiary right now, but $100 million. If I take half of that and then invest the other half, I mean, my children's children never have to work again.
Yeah, but here's the thing, too, though. I did go deeper. I did my own research, didn't know what Anta was, so take that for what it's worth. But also, on the other side, if you're an athlete who's getting a $100 million deal for Under Armour, you're already making a lot of money on the court or on the field. So you have a salary, you have endorsements elsewhere. And if you're saying, would you rather take $100 million and have a brand in the United States or wear Chinese footwear because their company's worth more? I withdraw you're an idiot if you go with Anta, but I would stick with my pick of Under Armour in this case.
Really?
I mean, I guess
469 million versus 100 million.
I'm betting on myself. I'm betting on myself to build my own subsidiary brand and make that. If I have a brand that I'm good enough to make $100 million, I'm a Jordan level, LeBron level player, and I could do more. I could make $250 million in the United States with my own shoe. Easy.
Let's get rid of Jordan.
And I have a clear conscience because I'm supporting the red, white, and blue, buddy.
You're
not sweatshops in China.
Your Under Armour still made in China or Taiwan, buddy. But listen, if I get what you're saying, let's take LeBron and Jordan off the table. Let's say you're Tom Brady. Yeah. Tom Brady made a lot of money too. What's TB12 doing? You see any TB12s around?
Different sport.
It's different sport. It doesn't apply.
So we're saying this is basketball only.
There's never been a football shoe. No, I would say the King Griffies were dope when they were out. There's been other athletes.
One of the best
I'm gonna
logos of all
correct
time.
you right now, John. I'm gonna let my sneakerhead out. There has been football shoes. There's been Odell colorways of shoes. Victor Cruz had his own shoe back in the day.
Yeah.
Deion Sanders had his own shoe.
If I said there's never been a football shoe, I misspoke.
I'm sorry. I'm
not
sorry.
Not as
Under Armour
famous.
shoes are made in Hong Kong, Panama, Vietnam, Indonesia, China, and Taiwan. My bad.
Yeah.
I just want to know why you guys haven't laid into me at all about my Converse take, because I thought you guys were gonna blow a gasket with that, and then you just went right back. It's not a shit take.
It's such a shit take. There's no point in even talking about it.
How is it a shit take?
Listen, Converse is kind of cool. Okay. The creative director position, the fact that you thought you were getting royalties is wild.
That's fine. I can sound dumb there. It's still a cool job to have when you're done with basketball.
Take that away. And really, you want to go in the office and be a creative director when you're worth millions, almost $100 million? I don't. I love advertising. I love it. I'm not. Yeah, thumbs up.
Well,
I'm not.
So speaking of that, you love advertising, and that's what the next point I was going to make. You love advertising. You know the power of a brand. So all jokes aside, too, if you are one of the most famous athletes on the face of the earth, do you get more power with your own brand and credibility with Under Armour or with Anta? Because that's the other piece of it that I was using to make the decision. Dudes in the hood aren't wearing Antas like, look, I got the new J Sharps. Like kids at Crocker Park aren't walking around at Christmas going, look, Kyrie wore some moccasins. I got to have those.
You're right, but maybe you take that 2%. Honestly, what I would probably do, I would try to be like Bernard Arnault, the LVMH guy. I would take a 2% stake. I would try to either do one of two things, increase it to 33%, so I then have voting rights, or use that to leverage stakes in other brands.
Yeah.
Eventually get out of Anta, use that to build wealth, get out of Anta, but create my own empire. The thing that worries me the most about Anta and that 2% stake is that it's China. At any time, I mean, could the
economy could collapse? They could shut it down.
Yeah, fuck your 2%.
Which is the other point I was going to make. I don't know. We're getting pretty far off. Like we had this chart, which I think was great, and I like it because it's a spirited debate. But we're talking about power of brand 25 years from now, investment strategies, and generational wealth. We probably went a little bit far, like just for the chart. You know what I mean? Like everything we're saying makes sense. But when I get this chart, Noah's like, this is what we're going to talk about. I look at the dollars for the contract and look at what it says with the perks. I'm going with Under Armour. Save it.
I'm going with Converse because I want to be the creative director.
I'm still split,
and I want my own.
I never gave an answer.
So what's your answer so we can wrap this up, because I think we'll go at this all day.
First of all, let me say that I grew up wearing Nikes my entire life. So I have, all my I played tennis tonight. It's all Nike gear. I definitely have an affinity with that brand, but everything between Anta and Converse is pretty much trash. Let's just be honest. So it would be between, well, it's those Converse, but it would be between Anta and Under Armour
and Converse.
If it were Anta just starting out and say they're only worth, I don't know,
less
500 million. I'm probably not taking the risk, especially for a Chinese brand. I'm probably taking the Under Armour deal. Absolutely. That's $100 million. That's instant, unbelievable wealth for my family and future generations. That's the kind of unfathomable wealth. I wasn't taking it from I'm already super wealthy because I'm one of the top basketball players. I'm taking this more you could take it that way. But yeah, but if it were right now, today, 2024, Anta 100%. Fuck, I'll sell that 2% immediately, take my 469 million and get more stakes or whatever.
If I'm already independently wealthy, have generational wealth, have 9-figure net worth, headed towards 10, I'm not wearing Chinese kicks. They'd have to give me part of Beijing. I would always rather be Under Armour than Anta.
I would take Hong Kong first if we're negotiating, but
If it was
And you're
cash,
both wrong because it should be Converse. Is the answer.
hey, Converse was Nike before Nike was Nike. Magic Johnson
right.
wore Converse. I mean, Converse was the shit in the 80s.
In the 80s,
No
yeah,
doubt.
your whole take is that it's a part of Nike, so I can still wear Nikes. I can be a creative director and go to an office every day when I'm done with my basketball career, and I have 75 million.
Yeah.
Did I summarize that aptly?
I'd be happy every day of my life because at least I don't have to wear some garbage ass Under Armours or some ugly Chinese shoes.
John and
Actually,
I
like a lot of the Anta shoes. I'm not even gonna lie.
We're in our text group, right? And John and I are like, "Hey, you want to fly private real quick to Paris and get some baguettes?" And Noah's like, I got to see if I got vacation time because, I got to go in Monday through Friday for my creative director role. What?
On that note, whatever.
PTO.
It's very cute that you two old heads are back together on the same page. We haven't had that in a couple episodes, but we're going to move on now. We're going to go to final thoughts and takes, wrap this show up because it's been a fun one. I'm so glad the three of us are back together to do a show. Final thoughts and takes. Erik, take it away, man.
Yeah, mine actually is related. It's about Nike dropping the ball lately, actually. And maybe this isn't so much a hot take. I believe in Nike as a company. They're an unbelievable company. Their history will show you that they know what they're doing, but they're really divesting themselves from a lot of sports right now. I don't know if that's because there's a lack of signature athletes that they want to invest in from, I'm thinking of tennis right now. There aren't great signature shoes or lines like there were in the past.
It's because they're cutting back real quick. It's because they've been not selling to the amount that they are used to selling. That's why they've cut back. They've cut back on football. They've cut back on tennis. Anything that isn't basketball and lifestyle sneakers have been cut back by Nike, but continue.
Can I give you guys a crazy stat real quick? Costco, I know this is a little off subject, but Costco, they have their Kirkland signature brand if people aren't familiar. So that's their home brand. Costco sells all sorts of stuff under Kirkland. Kirkland signature brand is more valuable, it's like 88 billion or something like that, than Nike. Isn't that wild? That's crazy. Blows my mind.
No, that blows my mind too.
It is, but you got to remember too, the difference between the revenue that it brings in that's associated with the brand and brand equity is different. Kirkland can sniff Nike's jockstrap in terms of the power of the swoosh. They just have every middle-aged woman in America buying their kid shit from there, and the cereal and the ginger ale is really cheap.
100% brand equity matters, but you know what? Revenue on the books matters more, hence Nike cutting back.
Hey, I'm not saying you're right or wrong. I'm just saying I wouldn't wear a pair of Kirkland shoes.
You're all saying that right now until this swoosh on my Myles Garrett jersey turns into a Kirkland signature box logo. Anyway,
that said, I mean, that's the point though. Like Nike needs to invest in itself like they did chasing Jordan. I know it's hard to find another Jordan and Jordan line, and I don't know what it looks like, but Adidas has done a much better job than Nike has in its diversification. They really went after a different market with their deal with Kanye, for example, and that kind of streetwear side. It's something that I think Nike can improve on. It's tough because when you're a company that's beholden to shareholders and they have they are the company, right, for sportswear. How do you grow beyond that? That's tricky. But I just feel like they're starting to drop the ball a little, and I want to see more out of Nike. Also, one last note, I'm trying to customize some like Nike Dunks recently, and there's such limited colors. Can you just give me unlimited colors, Nike? Like, let me do whatever I want.
That would take
not if you have an endorsement deal with Antia, they can't.
Yeah, Converse, they'd let you put whatever you want on it, just so you know.
Sign me up, man.
Yeah, everybody knows Kirkland because if you're a golfer, you find more of those balls shanked in the woods than any other. I will say with Nike, I was reading something to my kids. Okay, I was nerding out on marketing too, but Stanley was for construction workers and kids whose mom packed them soup in their thermoses, and they added colors to their cups, and now they sell billions of them because they're pink and green.
From TikTok.
I would encourage Nike to do the same. You're never in our lives will you see another Michael Jordan, even if there's somebody good as basketball or any other sport. He was a one of one. You can't keep chasing that model. They've maxed it out. I think you have to get creative with what you already got. So, maybe it's pink thermoses for kids. I don't know.
And shout out to Stanley for the guys willing to take that turn because of the popularity they saw from it and hard turn into it. And they increased their market cap. The numbers are just unreal. You wouldn't even believe it if I said it.
John. All right, final take.
Yep.
Fantasy season is upon us, ladies and gentlemen. Your drafts are coming up. Your cheat sheets are at the ready. Your keeper leagues are kept. Your players are ready to go. I've won in the last 6 years. I've won 2 fantasy football titles. I've been in the championships game 2 more times. I make the playoffs every year with a new strategy.
Your league is soft.
No. It's $200 a team. You got to pay for everything. There's thousands of dollars. It's not
okay. It's wealthy people that are soft.
Yeah, no. It's not soft. It's a keeper league. You got to do your homework. I'm going to let you guys behind the curtain on my strategy because none of you guys are in, and it's worked for me. I don't care how much they cost. I don't care how much you like them. I don't care how excited you are. Don't draft a running back until the 8th round or later. 2 reasons. Man, maybe 5th round or later.
How many people are in your league? I'm sorry.
12.
Okay, that's our league.
The key to fantasy football is getting a roster that, depending on if you're PPR or not, is going to score you 100 points a week. Your first 3 draft picks got to get 80 to 90 of that every week. Running backs get hurt. Running backs get fickle. Running backs turn 30 and suck. It's just too risky. Each of these years, I've gone quarterback, receiver in some order. And while everybody else is sopping up running backs 5, 6, 7 deep, I end up with Tyreek Hill, Travis Kelce, Josh Allen, and I am killing folks. The only times that I'm not like in the championship is because somebody gets hurt unexpectedly. Tyreek Hill's out for 2 weeks and it's during my playoffs. Stop drafting running backs. I know it's going to feel weird. I'm in an auction league. We have $200 to spend on the roster. I was in the conference championship again last year. Wide receiver, quarterback. More reliable, more points, more wins.
I agree with this take, and I've employed it. The 2024 Hawk Tuas are probably going to continue doing that. That's my new team name.
Oh, my.
And so
look at this.
Yeah, I like
I'm
it.
not even going to go there.
Stop.
Bit on
anyway.
Thing.
Google it on your phone, not at work.
Anyway.
That's
My hot take is that NBA 2K's got to fix their ratings. The ratings dropped for every roster for the new game today or yesterday. I can't remember off the top of my head. They left my boy Donovan Mitchell at a 92. I think he should have been a 95 with that playoff performance and putting the team on his back as much as he did until he got hurt. And Dean Wade at a 72 is criminal, in my opinion. He should be upper 70s. And that's my hot take for today. Gentlemen, anything else you want to say to the people before I take this thing home?
Yeah, Dean Wade at a 72 is accurate, buddy. I know what that's.
I was thinking, I feel like that's about right, but
I don't know what you
whatever, guys.
I wasn't going to play.
You guys are just ganging up on me on this episode. Thank you for tuning into the East Bank Sports Show at the Office Edition. Make sure you hit the like, comment, subscribe. 99% of you who are watching our videos right now are not subscribed. So please subscribe. Helps us grow the channel a ton. Make sure you subscribe, follow everybody with the Fanatical Elves. And until next time, Cleveland, have a great rest of your week.